Let's take you straight to Parliament, where Ken Ofori-Atta, Finance Minister Designate, is on his second day before the Appointments Committee.
New taxes. I'm wondering whether we can confidently say that the government agenda of moving Ghana beyond aid and moving it from taxation to production has failed. Tied to that is, would you give us an indication on when and how we can reach that destination of Ghana beyond aid? In the mid-year report, which you presented to this House the last time, you made a promise of using insurance, unemployment insurance, because of the COVID pandemic. Would you also be able to tell us the status of this insurance policy? Thank you.
Good morning, and Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity to be back with you at this point to continue. I realize the enormity of the responsibility of vetting us to seek your approval, and I'm appreciative of this opportunity. Thank you very much for the questions. I think, you know, we as a people, there has to be consensus on certain underlying figures, and therefore in an atmosphere in which there is quite a bit of poverty, words do matter, and therefore when you ascribe certain issues like a PDS to failure as opposed to boldness and decision to save the Republic, you are putting politics beyond principle. And those are important signaling for our people as to the hope that we aspire to and the politics. So I think we need to be very clear on challenging language. It was language that created the world, and therefore language can demoralize a people. So that's what. And maybe to digress a bit on that, if you look at, let's say, the Japa situation, really, as I mentioned, the Act was well debated here and accepted as a base issue. And then there were other issues. But truly, last year was sort of the best gold prize in the world that we could have had. And then, of course, the opposition had issues of, in a sense, when former President Mahama was a campaign trip and asked, you know, in 5 months to time, what are you going to do, 500 million? So that triggered, you know, a certain level of activity in which then you measure it against missing the gold prize, and we are where we are. So it's that balance as to Republic and politics that I think we need to be very firm about as a people in our narrative as to where we want to go. So that's that. Then you talk to your question about taxes and production. I think you are quite clear that might have abolished some 15 or 17 taxes in the first instance when we came to Parliament. That is real. We also reduced some electricity tariffs, etc. That's real. So even as we talk, you know, about a very sweeping statements that have you done and is it a failure, would have been an analysis of really what the quantum of taxes that we abolished during that period was, the forbearance we gave in electricity and water, etc. last year, and then see whether what we are raising this year with these taxes really equal that. And I think you realize that whatever we are taking to encourage burden sharing is much less than. But the other issue about democracy is that when you participate in contributing to the state, you are stronger in your voice in advocating for change, you know, and it can't be that you have a welfare state, okay? So extraordinary things happened last year. We have a commitment to transform this economy. There has to be a sense of participation, or the integrity of participating is diluted. You never feel strong enough to be able to have a voice because so, but then there has to be a balance with regards to decent salaries and where we are going. So yeah, the specificity of the taxes are important. A clean environment is good for health, and that's sanitation. We have energy, which will require us to support industrialization, the Delta Fund, so that's important. We'll look at the collapse of the banks, and in my mind, there has to be shared responsibility. You cannot have an association where wrongdoing is going on and you pretend that you are not part of it. Meanwhile, the intervention of 21 billion has led to a certain strengthening of the industry in which profitability is much higher. They should be part of that. And I think if we begin to create awareness that public purse management is all of our responsibility, you realize that, you know, the Petroleum Association, Banking Association, all would take interest instead of saying, you know, and that, I think, needs to be sort of the values that we inculcate. Ghana Beyond Aid, which is going to be supported by the machinery of Ofori-Atta, is what is going to lead us. But the Ghana Beyond Aid, I mean, there were, I think, some 8 or 9 issues on attitude and values, which is going to be something we, as leadership, must take as a narrative to be able to really move us beyond the mechanical things that we have promised to do in terms of discipline, in terms of integrity, in terms of honesty, etc. And that is where we are leaning to. With respect to the unemployment insurance, as you know, for the first time, government has a partnership agreement with labor and employers, and it is within the purview of them and the Ministry of Employment that are doing that. But we release the resources for them, and they are working actively to see what they will design for the employees. So that is on course. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My second question, Honorable Nominee, is yesterday the Honorable Deputy Majority Leader told us how magnanimous you were. I've had to use the word again this morning because you actually had the option not to have brought the EJPA deal to Parliament at all, but in furtherance of that magnanimity, you brought it to Parliament for scrutiny and further decision. I am a Muslim, and I know you're a devout Christian. And in Islam, our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam admonished us to seek knowledge wherever knowledge is. So sometimes when it becomes absolutely necessary, I reference the Bible. So this morning, I'll take you to Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 19. And it reads, "A feast is made for laughter, and wine makes merry, but money answers everything." Mr. Finance Minister Designate, you were in the same portfolio for 4 years. And the cry of all Ghanaians, whether you sat in a trotro or a VIP bus or a 207 from Salaga to Tamale, the complaint was the same. No money, no money, no money. This is God speaking. He says, money answers everything. What will you do differently to put money in our pockets so that when we sit on the bus from Makango to Salaga, the talk will be different? And praise how Ghana is good for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. I think you should show your neighbor Ecclesiastic 9:9, which she asked about yesterday for the white. So, money. You know that I think the issue of the love of money is also somewhere else, which is the root of all evil. So we can debate it, but I think, you know, it's interesting because it is an advisor, and when you look at the issue of, let's say, men's gold, which promises, you know, extraordinary things. Instinctually, you as a Muslim or Christian know that it can't be right. Okay, but you go there. But more importantly, I think we as a country should acknowledge that, you know, the president was swept into office in 2016 in an extraordinary way. The numbers just don't compute. That maybe because he was so popular, because he hadn't ruled before, but that obviously the people of Ghana were responding to something beyond what we can understand, because it was extraordinary. We had also derailed from the ECF, so things were difficult. And if you look in the same Bible, you can see the difficulties that the Israelis were having in Egypt. But with a little bit of sweat in the desert, they were ready to go back to Egypt. So it's natural for us to sometimes respond to that. But you can also admit that there's a sense of strength and dignity these 4 years that we haven't had in a while. You can also admit that our macro numbers are much stronger than they used to be. So the issue then of patience, which is in the Bible, and a sense of direction that we are going to, and whether we can have faith in what we are doing. But truly, our response as a country in 2020 to the COVID is also manifest to the mandate of a government and to protect its people. Now, can you, at any point, if you are clear on the vision as leadership, you make some hard decisions, which sometimes are difficult in the interim, but really, with hope, we should be able to get there because we have a solid plan and a vision ahead. So yes, that therefore does not leave one sleeping on the job, knowing that there are transition periods that are difficult and that we are committed to getting over it. So the battle cry for this budget is one year here. You know, all of us are going forward together. All of us are going to burden share, and all of us are going to share in the profitability. But leadership always has difficulties, and as I mentioned, one of the most famous finance ministers told me, if you are loved as a finance minister, it's a problem. Leadership is going to always have that hit. Mr. Chairman, I acknowledge that, and Jesus himself said, the poor shall always be with you, which means that we have to continue to fight to to alleviate that even as we create health. And my commitment to you is that we shall continue to fight to ensure that we lift the stream for all of our people so that social mobility shall be our lot. And the major flagships indicate a certain clarity that as citizens, everybody should have the required education and skill set and to be able to realize, their God-given rights. But it does take some walking to be able to get there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, leadership.
Chairman, the whip and the deputy leader will take it, but mine is just yesterday, as we scrutinize the Minister for Finance designate, there are two important issues that we requested for better particulars, and he pledged that he would make that information available to us. One, the issue of the reconciliation of the handling of the petroleum accounts and the PIAC report, whether 600 million or 700 million for 2018 or 2019 respectively. There's some 2.4 billion that as a country we need to understand the whereabouts of it. That will require some reconciliation between his ministry and PIAC. We definitely will demand some answers from him how he intends to walk the country through this in the interest of transparency and accountability. The second, Chairman, is in respect of the McKinsey transactions, their relationship with the Ministry of Finance and GRA. He pledged to make some documents available to us. Chairman, would appreciate it. But just to ask Minister, have you filed your tax returns, both as a person and in respect of your corporate entities as required by law, and as you yourself have extended it even for COVID purposes? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Yes, I believe I have filed my tax returns. With regards to sort of corporates, if you were referring to corporates such as Databank and so, I'm a shareholder and not, a director responsible for what they do. So I don't have answers for you on those corporates. I did mention, I think we have already spoken to the new PIAC chair that we will be seeing him after the Easter break. So that contact was made even yesterday. The issue of McKinsey and Co. We are assessing the numbers, and we will get that to you in due course.
All right, Chairman, my second will be Minister for Finance, not loved by many. In Ghana today, many people are unhappy with you about banking sector cleanup, which has had to cost the state some 21 billion Ghana cedis or more. The receiver of the collapsed savings and loans and other financial institutions are yet to pay depositors, and they are claiming that government have not made enough available to them to pay depositors. Depositors' primary concern is, when do we get our money? That has contributed to some hardships, that has contributed to some loss of jobs, but my particular interest is, will government make money available to the receiver of those collapsed savings and loans bank to deal with the cry of depositors? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. I think we continue to fulfill that obligation with regards to payments for that. I mean, we certainly made available to the receivers and participant Bank of Ghana the money required for for the banking system, that we are confident that we have fulfilled that obligation. Then we moved on to the asset management companies, in which so far we have given the resources that SEC has requested of us to them. My expectation is that that's going to be about 8.5 billion or so, and we will have to gradually move towards extinguishing that debt through the year, even though there are a number of issues in court as we sit. So yes, Mr. Chair, commitment that we will pay. Also, I think for all of us, really knowing that we are running an extraordinary budget deficit before then, from 4.5 to 11.4, hopefully 9.5 this year. And so in terms of managing of our working capital, it's always an issue that the ministry has to contend with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, mine is the first part will just be a comment so that given ministers' depth on finance and other matters on governance, we can have a national conversation on it. But Article 286 requires public officers, including you, to file assets. Have you done so, Minister Designate?
Yes,
asset
sir.
declaration.
Mr. Chairman, that has been done.
That has been done?
Yes, sir.
For both when you assumed office and when you exited and having to be walked back to the ministry.
We did it in 2017.
It's appreciated.
Signed up, yeah.
Chairman, I raise this because if you read reports from Shiraj and from the Office of the Special Prosecutors, just as to guide him, because the finance portfolio is a very key and important portfolio in our country, there is still the phenomena of unexplained wealth in Ghana, not directed at you personally, unexplained wealth. And there is a view that it should be criminalized. You just have a public officer having millions of dollars or cedis sitting in his account. He cannot explain for it. It's not commensurate to his earnings. What would be your view and thinking, having been Minister for Finance, the Financial Intelligence Center, transfer of money, which goes to individuals, and you just can't explain some of those wealth? Will you subscribe to us criminalizing unexplained wealth, sitting where you are? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. That is, sort of a monumental decision that the nation has to make on that. What is going to be a fact, Mr. Chairman, is that with the advent of the type of digitalization that we want, we're going to be able to aggregate big data going forward. And so in that event, I think it is a national conversation in which Parliament may have to then decide on whether, the past is the past and going forward is what we deal with. And that would really signal the type of nature of our people, the forbearance that we want. But I am confident that once we complete the digitalization that Honorable Minister for Communication and Digitalization is looking for, we are going to have a capacity to understand what you own going forward. And maybe Parliament will decide